Hello friends, let's today understand the poetry by Walter Whitman. The name of the poetry is O Captain, My Captain. Before understanding the poetry, let's understand something about the writer as a specific person of free verse. That is, he was also called as the father of free verse. Walt Whitman or Walter Whitman was born on 31st of May 1890. He was a popular American poet, essayist and a journalist. Walter Whitman, as we know popularly, is known as father of free verse. His popular work includes The Leaves of Grasses. His writings mainly include something about the American Civil War, and especially more influence is given on the Washington DC and its work during the hospitalization and hospital works. His poetry is focused on both the losses and the healing patterns. That is, we can find it talks about transcendentalism and realism. Walter Whitman's poetry, that is, O Captain, My Captain, is an complete admiration and dedication to Abraham Lincoln. That is, he was the president of American state at that time. After the death of Abraham Lincoln, the poetry was written to dedicate him about his work. The poetry, that is, O Captain, My Captain, is an extended metaphor kind of poetry, written in the year 1865, after the death of Abraham Lincoln. Well received upon the publication, this poem, written by Whitman, was further antagonized by most of the popular poems in his lifetimes. During the American Civil War, Walter Whitman moved on to Washington, D.C., where he worked for the government and volunteered in the hospitals also. During the same time, whatever he observed can be found in his poetic writings. Let's understand something about the very basic idea and basic concept battle background of O Captain, My Captain. The poetry, that is O Captain, My Captain, is, like we said, is an extended metaphor that is based on the death of the US President Abraham Lincoln in the year 1865. This poetry was based on completely about the idea with the rhyme scheme of AA, BB, CD, ED. That is, we can find that these poetic lines are being distributed in 9 quatrain and extended organized in 3 stanzas. The poetry written by Walter Whitman explains his idea and his attitude towards the poet, towards the Abraham Lincoln as an US president and a person who full-fledgedly worked for the country and its welfare and development. Let's understand the poetry in the stanza pattern. The pattern of the stanza, as we mentioned, is in a form of quatrain. The very first stanza explains about the poetry in a form that Walter Whitman calls upon the captain, which is, of course, again a very symbolic pattern. Captain over here is mentioned for Abraham Lincoln, and the ship is none other than a representation for the USA. The poet says in the first stanza that the captain of the ship with a fearful dread over here is none other than the civil wars were going on during the period at the time of Abraham Lincoln. And now just it had came to an end. The people were enjoying completely victory of the few years past which they had in the dark zones. The victory of the Union, the victory of the freedom was everywhere in the United States. The poet further tells the captain that the port, that is his home, is near and he can hear the sounds of the temples, bells, and the people who are enthusiastically and eagerly waiting from them to come on the port so that they can welcome the president of the country. This enthusiasm increases of the people as they find that the ship is approaching near the port. In the next few lines, we find that this enthusiasm is finally replaced with a gloomy side because the captain is now no more. The captain is dead and he is completely filled with the blood oozing out of his body. Here, the poet explains this particular line with the exclamatory remark as, "Oh, heart, heart, heart." Over here, you can suppose that it is completely a priestless bravery and the lifetime emotions which you can find in the captain when he is motionless. In the second stanza, we further find that Walter Whiteman tries to talk to the captain and bring him to life again after all when he knows that he is dead. This technique of talking to the dead body is none other than a pattern of apostrophe. The poet asks to the captain to rise and ring the bell and also the flags, hoist the flags. That is, he wants Abraham Lincoln to get up and again greet his people with complete enthusiasm, as the people are eagerly waiting for his arrival. But Captain, that is Abraham Lincoln, is dead. It should not be noted that the captain is dead, no, and hence the ceremonies are of his funeral only. The poet goes further and tries to consider that the death of his captain is none other than the death of the country and the death of the ship person. That is, he considered Abraham Lincoln as a fatherly figure because of his very great attitude towards the military leaders, towards the nation, and henceforth the poet laminates on the complete death of the captain. The third stanza, we find the duality of the emotions. Here, Walter Whiteman experiences his feeling of the death of the captain, where we can find a lamentation is going on. But at the same time, you can find that the victory is being enjoyed. Here, the poet explains that the captain is dead with the help of the lines which are explained like his lips are pale. He can neither feel the arms of the poet nor his heartbeat is beating. Here we can find that the death of the captain is finally being discussed. But at the same time, we also find that the destination ship is being arrived and finally the horror of the civil war is completely ended. This is done with the rejoicing of the poet, but at the same time, cemetery is being prepared for the Lincoln. This cemetery is being prepared on the deck of the ship itself. Over here, you can find the USA is being represented as the deck. Later on, we also find that the poem ends both the victory and with the help of the word that is loss.